So in the middle of winter, July 2025, I fell off my boat and this went into the water. It's now November 2025 and I've been fishing this. I probably fished it 10 times and caught like 40 fish. It's been a little bit of a shock. I thought I'd sit down and do a video on what actually happened to this FL 1000 Stradic when it got completely dunked. Two things happened. You're here to find out. Let's get into it. All right, yeah, two things happened. Very, very embarrassing. There's a video somewhere else on the channel if you want to hear the full story. Otherwise, let's just talk about this Stradic. So, we've got three Stradics in front of us. We've got a 1000 FL, we've got a 2500 FL, and we've got our reel that's been on a long-term test, the FM 2500. All these reels, in case you don't watch my channel, are fresh to me, in the box, looking good. I keep my gear tight and tidy. However, I committed to not washing this FM ever for the purpose of the test, and now I've turned into the guy that doesn't wash his reels at all. Pretty shocking for me, let me tell you. So what happened is I fell off my boat. You don't care about the story. Anyway, jumped back into the boat, and I thought, oh, everything's all right. And then I saw this, headed down to the bottom, lunged at it and grabbed it just as it was disappearing out of sight and going gurgle, gurgle, gurgle down to the depths, and just got it at full extension. So, you know, it was probably like a meter underwater. I estimated that it had been in the water for about a minute, yanked it up. Obviously, it had been fully submerged. I was out of my inflatable Achilles. So to go back to the dock, pack up the inflatable boat, put the motor in the car, go home, etc. It was a good hour before this got back. Got completely dunked for about a minute in a polluted river. Spent about an hour before I washed it off, and I just gave it a hose on, you know, the light rinse setting, so and then I took the spool off and I sat it up on the workbench. And so I just did this, didn't rinse under the spool at all, and sat it up on the workbench, and this story gets better and better. I just did that, took the spool off. I was so disgusted with myself and just chucked it on to the workbench like that and just ignored it. I then got COVID. I was really, really sick for 3 weeks. And then for 3 weeks after that, I had some family dramas. So I didn't even fish for like 6 weeks. This sat on the workbench like this for 6 weeks and I didn't touch it. And then we went away on a family holiday and we planned on doing some sup fishing. And I thought, well, the reel's going to get wet. So let's just pick this up again and look, you know, hopefully it fishes all right, and if it gets dunked, it just doesn't matter. So I just started fishing this again, and you know what? It started fishing pretty damn good, but there was two things that happened. So here we go. So this reel has probably never, I don't ever remember it, wind knotting ever in its life. But when I first started casting it again, look at me, I can't even get this spool on, it started wind knotting. So we got a bunch of wind knots, and we got some minor wind knots, and then we got a really, really huge wind knot. It had just been re-spooled with brand new 6-pound Daiwa J-braid, J-braid Grand in Island Blue. This was super fresh. It had literally been fished twice since the re-spool before I dunked it in the river. So this reel throughout its entire life has never wind knotted. It's been a fantastic reel. It started wind knotting immediately, and we probably lost 20 or 30 meters when we had that huge explosion when we were up the coast, sup fishing, I think it was. Yeah, we lost a fair bit. And then my hypothesis is that because I didn't really clean it off that well, I think that the top, 10 or 20 meters of the braid has compacted down with the salt. So my lesson, if you ever dunk a reel, is probably take the spool off, and I would sit it in a bucket of fresh water and give it a really good clean off, and then maybe pull the top 20 or 30 meters off and then just wind them back on when it's dried off. I think that it had kind of salt encrusted down, and a reel that never wind knotted before, but then straight after we started fishing it again, it started wind knotting. So we lost a good, at least 20 meters off the top of the spool. But then it stopped. Once we had this huge kind of explosion, obviously it got to just a point where it was like, okay, I'm done. And now we're back to some fresh braid and we're all good to go. So it's back to being a super well-behaved reel. All right, so what was the second thing that happened? Well, wind knotting on a reel, we can deal with that. But obviously I dunked this in quite a polluted river. And unfortunately, it has affected the smoothness of the reel. There is no doubt that it's got some salt intrusion inside the reel. No shock there, I guess, right? Now, this reel was previously winding probably like a 9.5 out of 10. It was utterly flawless before I dropped in the river. When I first started fishing it again, I'm going to call it, it was about a 7. You could definitely feel some grindiness in it. And then I sat down and I was analysing it for the review, and I thought, you know what? It's kind of smooth again. So what was a 9.5 out of 10, it's got some grindiness in it because no doubt there's some saltwater intrusion to the internals of the reel. So it's maybe a 7.5 or an 8. And I find that pretty shocking that something that was underwater for a minute and, you know, it's not rated for any kind of saltwater exclusion. You're not meant to be dropping your Stradics into the salt water. It's just shaking it off. You know, this wasn't a week ago. This was July, and it's now November 2025. And I've fished this, at least 10 times, caught at least 40 fish. Check out some of the videos. There's my PB flathead, a 74, is done on this reel. So when I tell you that we're going to analyze the pieces of the reel, when I tell you that the drag is sweet, I'm telling you the drag is sweet. So two things. It started wind nodding like crazy until we got rid of that the top shot on the spool, and it's definitely affected the smoothness of the reel, although the reel seems to be shaking that off. Now it's going to get funky when we take this spool off. I had a little look before I turned the camera on, and there is some gunk under the spool, which is not in the FL or the FM 2500. So there is some funky stuff going on in there. We're going to do some super technical analysis with a cotton bud, so let's do that. All right, so what are we going to do? Body corrosion. Let's get these reels out of the way so we can have a close look at this 1000. Now, I've gone over this a fair bit. Now, I hosed it off once. There is no body corrosion. Now there's a screw there for you to have a look at. No corrosion there. I've got no corrosion. I haven't even wiped this for the review. I could do better for you, right? There is no corrosion on the reel anywhere. Gave it a rinse off. It dried for 6 weeks on the bench. I find no corrosion anywhere. We'll unscrew this handle. I haven't even unscrewed the handle. I haven't seen in there yet. So body corrosion hasn't affected the reel at all. The handle assembly, again, seems unaffected. You know, we're pretty sweet. Things are looking good. Bail arm flip. Oh, I was really worried about this, but we are golden. It's as positive as it's ever been. Bail flip, good to go. The next thing that I was going to talk to you about is the roller bearing. So the only way to answer that is there's no squeaking, there's no weirdness, the drag is pulling out really smoothly. And interestingly, since I picked this up and started fishing it again, I caught my PB flathead, a 74 on this, and it's caught multiple 60s and multiple 50s. So yeah, it just hasn't affected it at all. So the bail flip and the roller bearing there are all sweet. The drag is just unaffected. The drag has been running as sweet as it ever has run, so I've got no problems with the functionality of you know, any of those upper systems in the reel there. So before we take this drag cap off, and I know there's some funky stuff under the drag cap, I haven't even unscrewed this handle and had a look in here. Okay, what do we see? I don't see anything in there. Do I? Maybe. Is that any nasty stuff? What is that? What is that? I think that's a little bit of grease that I've just... It is. That's grease. That's not funky stuff. I should not have wiped that out. At least we know what it is. That's not salt intrusion. Okay. I'm going to have to wipe some grease back in there now. So that was, there's a little bit of dirt on top of the grease, which was what fooled me then. But that is unaffected. Okay, we're looking good. Now, why don't I show you first? You're more important than me. Hopefully that light is glancing off and you're getting a little look-see in there. Let's have a look together. What do we see in there? Okay. Wow, I'm an idiot. I'm just wiping out the grease off the reel. Moron. So there's dirt on the grease. So I think that we've got some salt water has gone in there. A little bit of dirty crap. But we're going to oil this reel up later together as a separate video. So hopefully you're picking that up. So that is reel grease with a little bit of dirty crap, which is likely from the salt intrusion. Okay, so I'm kind of happy with what I see there. And on that outer rim, it's more reel grease. Okay, and it just looks dirty from the salt intrusion. That's what I'm seeing there. Interesting. Okay, so that reel grease has actually probably protected the reel a fair bit. Fascinating. Okay, let's get this. Let's do it all right. What are we looking at? Let me glance the light off there so you're with me. What do I see? Oh, that's really clean. Okay. So I don't think we've got anything or much on that side of the reel where we've got the cap. And now I've got reel grease on my fingers, so struggling. I'll tighten that up properly later. Okay. Let's get that. Let's get our handle back in and let's get this baby off because I know there's some funky stuff. Now I'm actually glad that we did that first. I can't get my drag cap off because I've got reel grease on my fingers. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm glad that we did the handle assembly first because now I know what I'm looking at. Now, on the other reels, the FL2500 and the FM2500, there's a nice smooth coating of grease there, a really thin smear, and that seems to be really missing. There is a very thin smear. I think I'm going to get some oil into that. Let's have a look at our drag stack. It looks really dry in there. It needs a little bit of reel grease. And the underside. Now, I glanced at this before I turned the camera on, and there's clearly some little flecks of salt. That's better. There is some salt intrusion in there. Trying to glance the light for you. So, I don't know if you can pick that up, but there is some. Oh, okay. This is good. Okay. Yeah, there's some crap that's gone in under there. I don't know if you're seeing that, but it's just some freaking crap on the cotton bud there. And I'm seeing some little flecks of salt in there. So I should have done a better job in washing out my spool. My bad. Okay, now here is the bit that is really cool. So on the shaft here, when I rotate the shaft so it's up at its top point, there's funky stuff coming out. Okay, let's get it right up the top. There we go. Okay, so on the spool shaft there, where it's raising and descending down through the body of the reel, there is a whole lot of crap coming out of the reel, which was never there before. So I opened up the 2500 FL and the 2500 FM, and they're very clean in this location, very, very clean. And this reel has never had this before, so we've got this goober coming out of the reel, which never happened before. Let's find out what it is. Okay, and again it looks like reel grease. So this reel has never expelled reel grease like this before on the reel shaft. It's always looked very clean in that location. So after it's dunked, suddenly it's spitting out a bit of grease. Let me touch it. Yeah, it's reel grease. And it's kind of sticky, and it's not very smooth. So it's gone a horrible consistency. Wow. Okay. So yeah, it's gone like earwax. That's my best description of it. So that is, the reel is spitting out reel grease off the shaft there. And it's gone the consistency of earwax. Fascinating. I wonder whether the reel is just trying to eject the crap that went into it. I have not oiled this, so we'll probably do a video, if anyone really cares, of oiling this up and then seeing whether I can get it back to a 9 or a 9.5 in smoothness. So how cool! We've done some high quality tech analysis with a cotton bud. We've taken this reel to pieces and had a good look together. This swam underwater for about a minute, and that was in July 2025. It's now November. I've been fishing this at least 10 times since and caught about 40 fish, including my personal best flathead. I'm quite surprised that this reel, remember this is the FL, this isn't even the FM, I'm quite surprised that this has withstood a minute underwater. I didn't really clean it properly, and this reel has just bounced back. So I wondered how the FM would withstand being dunked, and given that the FL has kind of largely shaken it off, my thoughts are turning to doing something really, really crazy. What if we strap this on a sea anchor and threw it to the bottom? You know, we've just ticked over 1 year that I've had this reel on a long-term review. I'll get my 1 year update up in a minute. But if I got 100 people comment, throw it in the comments section of this video, I'll strap this to a sea anchor, this FM, and throw it to the bottom, and we'll see what happens. I've thought about it. I can't really bear to throw this to the bottom, but you know what? We just can't kill this FM. So 100 people, if 100 people comment, throw it, I'll strap this to a sea anchor and we'll chuck it to the bottom. Let's see what happens.